Good evening. I'm going to call this regular board meeting of March 14th, 2022 to order. Mr. Drewer, if you'd please perform the roll call.
Ms. Larimer.
Here.
Mr. Pullman.
Here.
Mrs. Eubank.
Here.
Dr. Rufford.
Here.
Mr. Bennington.
Here. Please ask that everybody stands for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As I said, good evening. Welcome everybody that is here tonight for this board meeting, as well as anybody that may be watching it online and those who will be watching in the future. Perrysburg Schools welcomes you to the Commodore Building, and we thank you for attending tonight's Board of Education meeting. We care about the safety of our students, staff, families, and guests. Please note that there are exits on both sides of the east and west sides of the cafeteria, and in case of an emergency, an AED is located just outside the cafeteria doors. You are located at 140 East Indiana Avenue. Thank you for joining us tonight and supporting Perrysburg Schools. So with that, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved?
Second.
Ms. Larimer, Mr. Pullman, and roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer.
Yes.
Mr. Pullman.
Yes.
Mrs. Eubank.
Yes.
Dr. Rufford.
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. So we've got a pretty full agenda tonight. We've got a couple of recognitions to do. We're going to have we have a superintendent's report, and then we'll also have two opportunities for public participation. First one will be for agenda items only, and then the public participation at the end of the meeting will be for any other items that we want to discuss. So with that, let's start out with the part we all always enjoy. Mr. Hostler, the recognitions, please.
All right, thank you. It is customary for the board to recognize those students who achieve in their respective areas at the highest level. And for athletics, following the seasons when we have state qualifiers, we often bring them to the board meeting to recognize them. When it comes to the performing and fine arts, we've established similar kinds of accomplishments, which is really phenomenal. So qualifying for states, either as a musician, as a performer, or an athlete, is something that is noteworthy. So we're very grateful that we have a number of students who achieve that. Today we're welcoming Mr. Mick Smith and Mr. Scott Schleter, who are orchestra and band instructors, who are going to be introducing their all-state band and all-state orchestra members. So we'll ask them to come up and say a few words about what it means and about the students, and then we'll ask the students to come up for recognition. So.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to honor our students that qualified for All-State Band and All-State Orchestra. The process is quite extensive. The students have an audition process that is completed the year prior, and it's evaluated and adjudicated, and students then are selected based on their audition for a region event or for the All-State Band event. The performance was just a few weeks ago in Cleveland, and both the All-State Band and Orchestra performed outstanding. So this evening we'd like to recognize those students that qualified and participated. So for the All-State Orchestra, we have some students here this evening. We have Sam Zackel, Patrick Martz, if you'll come forward, Tony Chen, Adam Roberts, Patrick Chen, Caroline Hanna, Niranjan Bhagwat. And if I missed anyone, did I miss anyone that's here? And then we also have Mr. Schleter to talk a little bit about the All-State Band.
And while the winds and the strings audition on one instrument, we have our percussionist who made All-State Band. They have to audition on 3 different instruments, and he was selected to perform, and I would like to introduce Caleb Knight.
And I thought it'd be really interesting if the students just said their name and their instrument,
Patrick Chen, harp.
and maybe the grade as well.
Oh, I'm a freshman.
Simon Williams, bass. I'm a junior.
Caroline Hanna, I'm a senior. I play flute.
I'm Sam Zackel. I'm a junior and I play the bass.
Adam Roberts, senior, violin.
Patrick Martz, cello, sophomore.
I'm Naranjan Bhagwat. I'm a junior and I play the violin.
Tony Chen, senior, viola.
I'm Caleb Nate and I play percussion and I'm a senior.
And congratulations to all. On behalf of the board, myself, Ms. Larimer, we have some items to go home with in recognition of your accomplishments, a certificate of recognition, and Ms. Larimer has some pins for you. So congratulations. And I think stick around after we give this to you. We'll do a quick photo for the group. And I didn't get everybody's name, so. Mr. Marks, there you go. Adam? Oh. Simon? Sam? Good. I think that worked out okay.
You are welcome. We're with Perrysburg BOE. There you go. Nicely done, everybody. Sure, absolutely.
Good job. Yeah, congrats. Good.
No, Caroline.
Congratulations. Yeah. Great job.
Well done. Thank you so
Good job.
much. All you've done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Work.
Congratulations.
Good job.
I'm a fist bumper.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I'm a fist
Wonderful
bumper.
job.
Fist bumper. Fist bumper. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Ellie, Ray, would you like to have
Congratulations.
your pictures taken?
So much. Yes.
I can't play the viola though.
Keep it easy.
Take a couple giant steps this way just so we're not in front of the. A little bit more.
So as everybody settles back in, Mr. Hostler, our next item agenda, who are you and what do you do?
Sure, thanks. Yes. Well, that could be an appropriate question too. So
On some days, right?
So we began this feature a number of years ago where we wanted to highlight different roles in the school district. Specifically, we know what teachers and what they do from our own experiences in school, but we thought it would be nice to highlight other positions that are equally vital to the operations of the school and serving the students and families. So this evening, we are very fortunate to have Kathy Kroneman, who's with us. She is our Emus Coordinator, and she'll explain a little bit what Emus is, but I would argue to say that it's probably the most important position in the school district that you've never heard of. Because the information and her responsibilities are significant, and when districts have an opening in Emus, it creates a significant challenge. With the new state funding formula model that we have, it was one of the positions that was identified as needing to be funded in every school district in Ohio. So it is something that's important, and Kathy is one of the best at it, and we'll turn it over to her to explain exactly what she does.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Kroneman, and I'm the Emus Coordinator, and I've been at Perrysburg for 23 years. And so an overview of my responsibilities. People always ask, what is Emus? Emus is the Educational Management Information System, EMIS. It is a statewide data collection system for Ohio's primary and secondary education, including demographic information, enrollments, withdrawals, attendance, course information, financial data, gifted data, federal child count, and all the testing results. The Emus Coordinator is responsible for timely and accurate transmission of all staff and student data to the Ohio Department of Education, which helps determine our school district's funding and accountability. The Emus Coordinator works closely with every department as well as with school district staff at all levels. So some of the challenges. So one of the biggest challenges for Emus coordinators is to keep up with all the state's mandates. ODE frequently adds requirements, but they rarely discontinue them. The Emus data collection calendar has different data collections opening and closing on different days throughout the year, and keeping up with all of the different collections of data and deadlines can be very challenging. Having our data be accurate and submitted to ODE several days prior to a data collection deadline, and then ODE will notify school districts that they are changing the manifest and that they're requiring all school districts to resubmit their data while ODE is most likely searching for different issues. So some of my accomplishments. Okay. I have been a member of the Ohio Association of Emus Professionals, and through this organization I have earned my Certified Emus Professional, my Master Certified Emus Professional, and Data Manager designations. I continue to be involved in the Ohio Association of Emus Professionals by completing 30 hours of Ippy-Dippy each year. And every year I am audited by the Ohio State Auditors on our student enrollments, withdrawals, attendance, and student schedules. And I've been the Emus Coordinator since 2004, and I have not had one audit where the auditors have found any discrepancies with our student data. And then in the Did You Know, as an Emus Coordinator, I attend many meetings, seminars, workshops, and conference calls to maintain accurate knowledge of Emus requirements. In 2012, I was appointed to the Ohio Association of Professionals Board of Directors. I am required to complete an extensive civil rights data collection for the school district. And lastly, collecting and maintaining district information from across all of our school buildings reminds us that every keystroke matters. Thank you.
So I think one of the things that has always impressed me is, and you saw the background and the training, but Kathy is somebody who is also almost has to be a private investigator in terms of tracking down an issue that happens. So students transferring from out of state, in state, other types of challenges, really pinpointing, where that student came from and making sure that the state has all the information. And sometimes it's not always easy to solve those problems. So we're very fortunate that she's very dedicated and very competent at what she does. So a mistake that would be made could end up resulting, Randy, literally in millions of dollars if reports aren't filed correctly or if there are significant errors or problems. It could delay in funding until those things are figured out. State report card data, how students are coded in the system, whether they're on an IEP or not. All those things get cycled through her office. So it really is that conduit of all that information, which then gets matched with test scores, with funding, licensure for staff, everything touches it. So it's the number of fields, I didn't ask her what that would be, because that would be very scary. But for every student, there's a number of fields, for every staff member, and then you get into all those other areas. So like I said, it is a position that people get very nervous about, that folks really don't talk about very often until there's a problem or until there's a vacancy. So we're grateful for her service. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassler. I believe we want to not go out of agenda order here, but we had another introduction to make.
Yes, so later on in the agenda today, we are asking the board to approve Dr. Justin Foltz, who's with us today. Dr. Foltz will be joining us from the school across the river. So we're always grateful to be able to steal folks from them. It gives us extra satisfaction, but what gives us more satisfaction is the fact that we have a very competent leader who is joining the district for our Director of Student Services and Wellbeing. And that position was vacated mid-year. So we've had a great interim who's been serving in that capacity, Jessica Molina, who will be returning to her role as the Assistant Director. But Justin did a terrific job with the interview process, and we're very excited that he's joining us. So later on in the agenda, he is appearing, and we're asking the board to approve his contract with us. So welcome, Justin, and I don't know if there's anything you want to add very quickly while I'm putting you on the spot without any time to prepare for remarks.
I won't say this outside this room, but I'm very proud and happy to be trading in my purple and gold flag. I've had a great 15 years in Waukegan, but I'm really excited to listen to all the great people working within the school district and learn about how I can help to add some value, keep pushing things forward for the kids in our community. So thanks.
Thank you for attending tonight, and we look forward to approving your contract in the consent agenda. I'm telling my hand there, yeah, very good. I didn't hear anything concerning. Okay. With that, now we are at the next up will be public participation. We first have a 5-minute break. I know it's a little early, but we're going to go ahead and take that 5-minute break so I can get the public participation list kind of organized. So we'll regroup here at 5 till, let's say, and start the first public participation on agenda items.
turn more towards Tom.
Oh, the podium?
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. So we have, board members, we have quite a bit of public participation tonight. We're also in a little bit of this position where we have a new policy for public participation in our consent agenda. And from your reading, you know, at a high level, that is expanding the public participation from 2 minutes to 3 minutes, as well as changing the amount of time used to be, well, is currently under the president's discretion. After that vote, the board will vote on extending that time. Right now, the total time is 15 minutes. So here's what I'm going to propose, a little bit of a mix in this, while I still have privilege to do so, is I'd like to extend the speaking time to 3 minutes for this session. I would also like to, per speaker, as well as given the number of speakers, extend the total time to 40 minutes to get everybody in.
Second.
Okay?
I'm assuming
not
you're
seeing
making a motion.
I don't even think I need to make a motion. I still have a little bit of, yeah, I know, this will
You
be the
have
last time.
gavelled that.
So I expect that, I expect
okay.
this will then be the rule. So for the public, I'm going to recognize you and ask you to come to the podium. I'm going to ask you to state your name, address, and affiliation with the school district. Again, once you start speaking, the 3-minute timer will begin. We will try and give a light gavel or a high sign as it gets close so that you don't get completely gavelled off. We do ask that you stay to the 3 minutes. Another item to request is we ask that you don't approach the board with materials. If you have materials that you would like the board to see, please pass them along to an administrator in the back. They'll make sure that they get to us for distribution in the future. That way we're not getting 3 minutes is still not a lot of time, and we'd rather not be focused on what's in front of us. We'd rather be focused on you. So again, we welcome any and all public participation. And with that, I'm going to go with the first list I have here. I am probably going to not do a lot of names justice, so for that I apologize. But first speaker, I believe, is Mr. Vantele. I'm guessing you mispronounced it. I absolutely mispronounced it. Vanderveld. Please come to the podium, sir.
This thing on. Well, you guys may know me. I'm a local artist.
Excuse me, sir. Address and affiliation with the district. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. It's my first time here. My name is Robert Vanderveld. I live at 241 East 5th Street, and I'm here to talk about the GSA club. I'm a local artist. I created a free resource about Black History Month that travels the school. Matter of fact, it hung on these walls. And I just want to share with you how important it is to support the gay and lesbian students and community members. Obviously, you can tell from my gay accent that I'm a homo. And look at what we bring to your community. We enrich it. And when we lean into a false diatribe from a dying propaganda-driven lie, it's dangerous. I want to share my coming out story. I had a teacher, I loved her, Sally Tartoni. We still talk to this day. She gave me this butterfly. She gave everyone a butterfly. On it, it said, I am loving and capable. Anytime someone hurt your feelings, you had to tear it and tell that person, right? Well, I grew up in a foster home. I was gay as the day was long, and it was the mid-90s, and Ellen was coming out. Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. And of course, I do nothing small. If you've seen my work, it's all huge. I have a lot to say, and I say it in a very huge way. So I was having a hard time. I was thinking about self-harming myself because I was being so bullied. I mean, kids would chase me into lockers, push me around, call me faggot, and boy, it hurts so bad, right? So I go to get help from my teacher. She's not there that day. Guess where she is? On the Oprah Winfrey Show, talking about why Ellen shouldn't be on TV. Oh my God. What do you think that did to me? It destroyed me. The one teacher that I believed in and she believed in me is in Oprah Winfrey's audience. telling her that it's not right because it was the day and time of don't ask and don't tell, and we know where that leads. And I gotta tell you, I tried to kill myself because I wasn't supported. I didn't have a place to go. And now we have an opportunity to give these kids a place to go and talk about safe, confusing things and a safe, trained staff. Whoa, how far we've come. How far we've come when they didn't want to even hang Marsha P. Johnson in our local library because we don't want to upset people like you. Right? Then take every book about Marsha P. Johnson out of your dang library and throw it outside and book burn it like these losers in the South. That is dangerous to support. Now it hangs in the Toledo-Lucas County Library, strongly and proudly for Black History Month and for Women's History Month. Shame. Shame to lean into a dying rhetoric that causes harm to others. Shameful.
Thank you very much. I would also, and I forgot to remind, please address your comments to the board. The board may or may not respond, or the board will not respond tonight, but President or Mr. Hostler may or may not respond. So, okay, thank you. With next speaker, Robin Laird, to the podium, please.
Robin Laird, 948 Louisiana. Good evening, everyone. I've lived in Perrysburg 55 of my nearly 60 years, and I can prove that I'm almost 60 because you can see the font on my paper is huge, even with my readers. I am a proud alumni of Perrysburg Schools, and I have two daughters who are successful adults thanks to a Perrysburg Schools education. I worked in Perrysburg Schools for 20 years, retiring in 2014, and have since returned to Woodland to help support kids. I've worked with students of all races, sexual orientation, socioeconomic class, and primarily those with diverse learning needs. I'm here to thank Perrysburg Schools for considering the Sexual and Gender Alliance Club. This club is incredibly important in creating an atmosphere in which all kids matter. When reading the mission of the club, it's clear that the founders have put in thoughtful consideration and developed a club to not only build an inclusive atmosphere, but recognize that when students believe they belong, their academic excellence increases, or academic experience increases. My experience in the schools has taught me that that club will only further support Perrysburg Schools' mission of ensuring all students reach their greatest potential. Members of our community have implied and questioned that Perrysburg's work is supporting pedophiles. Ridiculous as that sounds, many have failed to look into the fact that the conspiracy theory was funded and pushed by actual pedophiles who have tried unsuccessfully to align themselves with the real LGBTQ organizations. I'm pretty sure that some of those members will be loud and clear that they are against this new club. I encourage you to block those voices and hear those people who care about all kids. Thank you.
Next speaker, Sarah Harlow. Ms. Harlow. Please name, address, in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. My name's Sarah Harlow. I live at 325 West South Boundary. I graduated from Perrysburg. You don't need to know what year. My father-in-law, John Harlow, taught English at the high school. Sadly, he's not here, he's passed away. Or he would be here to support his grandson. When I was in high school, I did not like to give speeches, so I would show pictures. I'm going to do that now. My son Zachary graduated from Perrysburg in 2008. He now lives in Atlanta. He's very successful and handsome. Here's another picture. My son Adam graduated in 2009. He lives in England. Here we are in Dublin. In high school, Zachary became withdrawn. This was not like him. He's very bubbly. He told me he was gay. I had to pull it out of him. Zachary didn't want to be gay. He didn't choose to be gay. Luckily, he has a wonderful, supportive family, friends. I mean, he's turned out so well. But in high school, Zachary thought as a child people would want him to be dead. When he told me he was gay, my biggest fear his whole life is that somebody would harm him. And that is why I'm speaking up here now, because I don't like to do this. That's my child. I will do anything for the children. I am also a substitute at Perrysburg. Anything I can do to protect the children. Anybody have questions for me about teenage children thinking that they're gay, feeling that they're gay, not wanting to be gay, you can contact me. And that's all I have.
Ms. Jedzinski?
My name is Julie Jagosinski. I'm nervous, so if my voice is shaky, this is totally outside of my box. But I am an 18-year resident of Perrysburg, and I'm also an intervention specialist at Frank Elementary. And I initially wanted to speak tonight for a very simple message, much shorter, like 3 seconds. And over the weekend, it kind of snowballed into something completely different. And I kept coming back to our mission statement: ensuring all students achieve their greatest potential. And I am a stickler for all means all. All is all the kids, all of them. And I sat down today and I saw it up there and I was like, there it is, yes, all means all. And then I look at the core values. We value students as individuals. And I thought a little bit deeper about that and what that means and what we're talking about and what I would like to support today in the GSA club at the high school. I feel like it would be irresponsible not to offer that support for students. It can be life-changing, it can be life-saving. And I feel like that's what we should be doing for our kids, because all means all, every one of them. The second part of what I initially wanted to talk about was actually just a simple thank you. The last 2 years, we all know, has been a roller coaster of a ride. And I appreciate, as a community member, a lot of difficult decisions were made. None of them were easy. And I may have agreed with all of them, I may have agreed with none of them, but it doesn't matter, because I know at the end of the day, a lot of difficult decisions were made in the best interest of children. And that I can appreciate and I can support. And I love that our district supports teachers and offers trainings for all the things to support people in our community, the children in our community, and just to overall be better community members. I mean, we have to grow within inside. We can't do it blindly. So I think that's it. I don't know. Thank you.
So next is Ms. Carolyn Amizo. Talk about all-state recognition. Going once? Okay, if I've mispronounced your name so bad you don't even know who you are, feel free to come up later. So, next is Sam Zatchel. Or Katie Zatchel. Really struggling with names tonight. Okay. Miss Melissa Grossman.
Hi, good evening. I am Melissa Grossman of 143 Birchcrest Drive. I am speaking to you today as a parent who has a son at the high school and as a teacher at the junior high. The reason I am here is to make my voice heard in support of the Genders and Sexuality Alliance Club that, especially after listening to the community members 2 weeks ago, I think proved a desperate need for this club, as well as a need for a show of support from all of us. For me, being here tonight, I see it as an extension of my job by supporting my students in and out of the classroom. I respect my students by believing them when they express themselves to me. Professional development in this district has helped me understand that these children need to see and hear our support. 2 weeks ago, a member of the community grossly misrepresented the LGBTQ+ community and also the professional development that we receive here as teachers. I've learned ways to work on repairing trust with my LGBTQ students who have had that trust continuously broken. At the core of this issue, I would remind this community and board that it is not for me or anyone else to stop a student from expressing what is right in their hearts, and that the need for this club is real. This is not a black and white issue. There is no other side for my LGBTQ students or a way to represent equal narratives here. This is their life. This is an issue of human rights, and the community members who want to take those rights away do not need to be heard anymore in this room. Please stop allowing people to use this platform to spew false information and hate speech and to cause further damage to our families in this community. Please support the LGBTQ+ community by approving the GSA Club at the high school, and please continue to provide teachers with your support and the professional development that we need to support our students. Thank you very much for listening.
Next is Ms. Kathy Mayfield.
Hi, my name is Kathy Mayfield. I live at 2441 Point Pleasant Way in Washington Township. I'm a 7th grade English language arts teacher. As you've seen, it is not easy for teachers to come here today. We've been trying to hide for the past 2 years and keep our heads down and do our jobs, but it has come to a point where we have to be here to speak up for our students. We see an immediate need to communicate to you how recent comments in the community have impacted the work that we do and the work that we must do. At the previous board meeting, you heard statements that were false and inflammatory. One community member claimed that the LGBTQ+ community included pedophiles, and that Perrysburg teachers were being trained to accept pedophiles. Again, this is not only harmful, it is verifiably false. What is true is that our LGBTQ youth are faced with much higher rates of depression and suicide compared to their peers. And it's no wonder as to why. Sadly, the hate speech that you saw in this room at this last meeting is not confined to the walls within this room. Those comments are made in the homes of the students that we serve. And they come into our schools. They come into our hallways and our cafeterias and our gymnasiums and our classrooms. And they're directed at some of our most vulnerable students that we serve. What frightens me even more, and what left a pit in my stomach, is that comments like what you heard 2 weeks ago are made in the homes of LGBTQ students who are then burdened with the feeling that no adult in their life will ever love them for who they are. We can't teach reading, writing, and arithmetic when a student has that child or that burden to carry. We simply can't. And that's why I'm asking you, despite the negativity that you are facing and the immense pressure as well, please continue to do the right thing. Tonight, you have the opportunity to provide a space for young people where they can enjoy acceptance and safety and a respite from the hate that you have seen in your own space, that you work for your own eyes. This is what teachers want for our students, and it is absolutely what our students deserve. Thank you so much for listening and for serving. Go Jackets.
Next, Ms. Allison Littell.
Hi, good evening. I do not have something as eloquently prepared as Kathy did. Thank you so much for your wonderful words. But I just come. I live at 126 and a half Louisiana Avenue in Perrysburg. Go Jackets. I come here as a teacher within the district to voice my enthusiastic support for the GSA Club at the high school. I am one to fully support our district mission statement, which is, again, to echo the words of my colleagues, to serve all students, all encompassing all. I am a Metro Detroit transplant that stayed in the area after falling in love with areas like Perrysburg after going to Bowling Green State University. I felt like I could make this place my home as I have grown to find my soulmate. We're thinking about the future, and hearing hateful comments coming from community members make me not want to do so. It makes me not want to buy a home in Perrysburg. It makes me not want to settle my roots and send my kids to where, as Kathy stated, the hallways are filled with hateful comments that people are coming and hearing from their houses. I enthusiastically support the GSA at the high school because if this is a place where I want to set down my roots and buy a house and be a continuously, tax-paying community member, I want my students, whatever they grow, or I'm sorry, rather my children, to grow up to be, whoever they may be, whether that be, anything under the sun or anything under the rainbow. So to, all of our students who may be here, who, are feeling attacked by the hateful comments in our community, you are loved, you are valid, we are here for you, and we hope that this passes for you, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about, is you. So thank you for being you.
Next is Ms. Nicole Percival.
Hi, my name is Nicole Percival. I live at 308 Earl North. I don't live in Perrysburg, but I do teach in Perrysburg. I'm a first grade teacher at Frank. I'm here to voice strong support. I'm also nervous. I'm used to talking to 6- and 7-year-olds, so. I'm here to voice strong support for the GSA Club. As an educator, it is my goal to make all of my students feel safe, secure, and valued. According to Gilson.org, 7 out of 10 LGBTQ+ students are harassed at school for who they are. And when someone doesn't feel seen, they may turn inward and build walls. They don't connect. This club fosters that connection with peers. So I ask, would this club help them feel safer, more secure, and valued? It would. As a mom of teens, I know firsthand what a time of growth, change, and discovery this is. Sometimes it's wonderful, but it can also be difficult and scary. So I ask, would I want my child, my children, to have this opportunity, this choice? If they needed or wanted this connection, I would. As a teacher of young children, whose faces I look at each day, whose successes I celebrate, and whose worries and fears I take home with me every single night, do I hope they find this opportunity for connection waiting for them if they need it when they reach the high school? I do. In closing, I hope that the new GSA Club is welcomed warmly into the already amazingly wide number of options available for them when they arrive at our high school. Thank you.
And our final speaker on agenda topics is Trevor Madigan.
Hello, my name is Trevor Madigan. I live at 152 Fox Hill Lane, and I'm a 14-year-old 8th grade student at PJHS and a proud gay male. Over the years at Perrysburg, after countless encounters with homophobia comments and the fear of not being accepted, a comment was made the other night stating that the LGBTQIA+ community accepts pedophilia behavior and pedophilia acts. This struck me to now make my statement tonight that this is not correct. The LGBTQIA+ community over the years has been seen as disgusting and inhumane, and still to this day is seen this way by so many. The person who made this comment has said the plus in the LGBTQ+ community means minor attracted person. Although she did say it was controversial, the fact that she sees it this way is its own sort of wrong. After no sites of evidence were shown in that speech, I would like to wonder if she did her research at all, because that plus indeed means sexualities or sexual orientations such as demisexual. As a person who does not always feel 100% safe walking the halls at Perrysburg schools, after this opinion was shared, how was myself or other LGBTQ youth supposed to feel? I would love to feel safe in school, and the GSA Club would be an amazing way for myself and other LGBTQ youth to feel feel safe and accepted. When you can only live once, why would you want to take a fun, loving childhood away from someone for just being themselves and expressing their feelings, whether or not she, he, or they are a part of the LGBTQIA+ community or not? Thank you.
Thank you to all for your public participation in this first session. I will check in and make sure, was there anybody that was who had signed up, who was expecting to speak, whose name I may have butchered beyond recognition? Please come to the podium.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Baca, and I live at 26442 Carrington Boulevard. I'm here in support of the GSA, as well as our school board and our teachers who have worked so hard and diligently and given of themselves and their time to create an inclusive environment for all of our students. I have to say, we moved here about 9 years ago. The first question I asked my husband when it was time to choose a place to live was, what are the schools like? And I haven't been disappointed. Also, when my son was in 8th grade, my youngest son, I had a choice to make in terms of where we could send him to school. I was happy to have that privilege to do so, and one of the things I looked at is where would he be accepted and loved and nurtured for his talents, and I have not been disappointed. So I very much want to thank you all for creating that environment and to thank our teachers for creating that environment as well. It's not by accident. I have some information, some data, facts that support the GSA as well as inclusion and diversity in our schools. I'll leave that with the administrators. I'm not here tonight to speak to people who are not interested in the facts, and I'm also not here to speak to people who are not willing and able to open their hearts to all sorts of people and be loving. I am really here to speak to the students, our LGBTQ students, to the parents who love them, to the parents who are really working to open their hearts and understand them, to the community that rallies around them and loves them, who are allies and advocate for them. I want to tell them, don't be scared. I want to tell them that they're beautiful, they're brave, some of the bravest people I know, and that they belong. If you're struggling, if you're an LGBTQ student, whether you've come out or not, you're struggling, there's so many places for you to get resources. The Trevor Project, GLSEN, GSLEN.org, Human Rights Campaign. And for parents, there's a fantastic, if you've not heard about it, organization called Serendipity Doodah. Home of the Mama Bears, and by the way, it's a group of conservative Christian mothers who believe that celebrating their gay children is the most Christian and loving thing that they could do. So I'm calling on the board tonight to lean into supporting these wonderful people in our community, to not be distracted, to not live in fear, to do what is right, and to continue the work that you're doing to include all students. Thank you.
So that will end the first public participation. Again, thank you for your comments. And next item on the agenda is the Superintendent Report. Mr. Hostler.
So on the agenda this evening is just an update to the Board of Education on our Facility Master Planning Committee kickoff. So we began this process before the start of the year, and we asked the community to allow us to, anyone who's interested in participating, being part of this committee, to wrestle with some of the more challenging questions for our district and its future. And we had a great high-level amount of interest. So that was wonderful to see the number of really talented people in the community who said we'd like to serve. So we had over 120 people that expressed an interest. We created 3 different committees and have probably 70 people that from that original pool who are participating. So on February 1st and 2nd, we had a kickoff where we invited folks in to give them kind of a background, because we had some folks who are part of the committee who had actually never been in any of our buildings, who weren't from here, who didn't have children here, but that's an important demographic in our community. And then we had folks that were on the other end of the spectrum who maybe hadn't been in our schools in 20 years when their children had graduated. And so we wanted to get them familiar with the district, the changes that we're facing. And then we followed up from that meeting. We did a bus tour and got everybody who was interested in participating was able to actually get out into all of our buildings. So that took place over 2 evenings, and got great feedback. So while we're talking about buildings and showing different drawings and talking about each building, now they have the ability to connect what they saw, what they heard, what they had seen, in some cases what they smelled at visiting our buildings. So it was really a great evening, 2 evenings. So I'm going to go very quickly through our presentation so that the board and public is aware of what we're up to as a committee, as 3 committees, and just the information that's being shared. So I'll move very quickly. So the agenda that we had is listed here, and we began with the roles of the committees and did take a look back at our past work in 2013, 18, and then in 2021 we began to look at all the information that we've compiled in past studies. So getting into the buildings, talking about our future isn't anything new. Then we did really get into the reason that we have committees, and that's the challenges. And then the actual facilities and academic performance. A little bit about state funding, because that's important in terms of how we operate, and then a little bit of the history and then communications of the committee. So the 3 groups that we have that under the umbrella of the Master Core Planning Committee, we have the Student Population Growth and Facility Use Subcommittee. So we have about 20 to 25 people that are engaged in that, and they're wrestling with, and we'll talk about what that is. The second group is Athletic, STEM, Special Education, Fine and Performing Arts space, because that is a unique space that we really wanted to focus on as we wrestled with the future. And then we wanted the fiscal analysis, because any option that we face with bringing to the board is not only dealing with the cost of the walls, but what it costs to operate, what goes on within those walls, and that's an important component too. So the overall committee is looking to coordinate, disseminate information, and then working through all the different committees. And the objective of the population growth is really to look at our current facilities and determine what's the best solution to accommodate our current student population and future growth. So that's the question that we have moving forward. And for the special space area, we want to really delve into those areas because they're so important to our overall mission, and they deserve that kind of extra focus and attention, and really developing this district-wide approach to this space. And then with the fiscal analysis, we want to understand the financial implications of these decisions, so that when we come to the board, it's not just here's a building, but really have a question of what does it take to operate that building, and what does it take to keep it open and running, not only the day it opens, but into the future. So the roles and responsibilities, we went over that and talked about the charge that we've kind of laid out to everybody, and being folks that can go out in the community and bring us information and be that kind of steward of information, being that conduit where information gets shared. The timeline, we're looking at the kickoff, and of course we're starting to get into the school tours, which we've accomplished, and we'll get into the individual committee meetings here in the very near future. So this is what we're looking to do. Our goal is to begin to wrap up in May with getting information to the board and presenting final recommendations. We're looking in January of 2023. So we're looking to have this group come back January 2023 sounds like a long way off, but it's not. And we know we have a lot of work cut out for us. So one question that folks have said is, well, if we're planning today for growth, what happens in the future? Where do we go in the future? And if we have something and a need and this committee comes up with a great plan, the board says this is a great plan, the community goes out and supports it, how soon could we actually open up a building? So the collaborative is one of our partners that's working on this. They said, okay, if we start from today and we look at a levy in the fall of 2023, this is just a timeline that they're putting out there as the soonest. We would look at moving in the summer, spring, summer, finishing construction in 2027. So the conversations we're having today are really leading us to some point in the future. And whether that is 2023 or some point down the road, we know the committee is going to come back with some type of a recommendation that's going to require action. But that just gives you an idea of how long these things take from initial conversations to actual ribbon cutting type of things. We wanted to give folks an overview because we had a number of folks that, again, had no prior connections to the school, or their past connections were so far gone that the district had changed significantly. So a few things: our annual budget is $64 million. We have 5,693 preschool to 12th grade students. We drive 1,830 miles every single day, and that's going to Jacksonville, Florida, and back. So that's how much is on our buses every day. So we have 8 schools, and that includes a preschool that's located in Maumee, and 4 elementaries, intermediate, high school, and junior high. The students we serve is something that we talk a lot about, the growth that's happening in the community, but we're also looking at the types of students that we're serving because it's important to know. And special education is one of those spaces that we identified, for example, as an important space. The buildings, we went and toured buildings that were built in the 1950s, really weren't equipped for all learners. So moving forward, we want to make sure that we include thoughts about how we can better serve that element of the population. And Mr. Swartzmiller did a great job here. We said that 10% of our students are on IEPs. And people don't understand what that is, but it's 569 students that are on IEPs that need additional help and support. That's the size of our largest elementary building, to give it perspective. So it is an important thing to look at the types of students that we serve. Of the 334 school districts, 334 school districts in Ohio out of 607 have smaller student populations than Perrysburg's high school. So our high school would be one of the larger school districts if it stood alone. Districts larger than 4,000 students, we would be one of we are one of the fastest growing. There are 3 in the Columbus area: Olentangy, Reynoldsburg, and Dublin, and then 2 near Cincinnati, Princeton, and Cincinnati Public, that are growing faster than Perrysburg. So that puts us in certainly a very unique place in the state. Students achieving their greatest potential, that's something that, again, we're very proud of the work that we've done, and this mission is something that we wake up thinking about. We talk a lot about having 28 students in a classroom, and we want to make sure that 27 and 28 of those 28 students are being thought about. So this is not the first time that we've talked about growth and what we need to do in the future. So if you go back to 2012, that was when we began to talk about growth that was happening, what we were experiencing, and that led to a recommendation to the board, which led into the opening of Hall Prairie in 2017. That building opened in 2017, and we began our conversations about master planning in April of 2018. So within a year, we were already beginning to talk about what was coming next. So this idea that we wait until the kids arrive and then we say, now what do we do, doesn't really fit with what we've done and what we've demonstrated in the past. And then we began again with what we're doing in 2021, and then that's led to the board saying, let's get a committee and let's tackle this. So we've had committee members that have participated in the past and moving in the future. In 2021, we did a board work session, and we talked about the challenges that we're facing. And again, since 2011, we've added 800 students, which is a 17% increase. To put it in perspective, that's about the size of our junior high. We've been able to kind of work those students into the district. That is our growth, and you can see that it continues to be an uphill climb since 1999. This is one of my favorite slides because we think about growth happening just like kindergartners coming in. But the reality is growth happens at every grade level. So what this chart shows is if you go back to 2014, we had 351 kindergartners that year. Today, those students are in the 7th grade, and that class has now grown to 417 students. In the following year, we had 324 smaller kindergarten class. They're in 6th grade now. They're now at 408 students. So you can see that this proverbial snowball continues to grow. 394 students in 2018 and 19. That is now our 3rd grade class, 442 students. So that was our largest kindergarten class. The next year, 394, and they're currently in 2nd grade, 430. So growth happens at all levels, and that creates some unique challenges for us. We also partnered with, or not partnered, but we also invited a conversation to be on a larger scale with the city of Perrysburg, where they came out. We had participants. Assistant Superintendent Brooke Price was the district representative, and we did find on May 4th, they came out and did a presentation about the land use plan steering committee. And there was a lot of conversations about the growth that the city was looking at. And on the slide here, they said there were up to 7,596 residents that could be available with housing units over 3,000. So again, the city of Perrysburg sits in our school district, but also we have a portion of Perrysburg Township and Middleton Township. So it's not only growth in the city, but it's also in those 2 areas of the township. They had 3 different projections in terms of what that could mean. And if you're adding 400 people a year or 100 people a year, there's going to be students in that number. And then our current population, you can see that it's not just the schools, but we're also seeing this growth across, the community. And so, that information was helpful for us. In this slide, this is our school district that is outlined here. And you can see in the brown area is the 3,271 acres that currently is developable land. And especially in the southwest corner, that is happening. And then there's a large tract on the other side of I-75 where you don't see that development, but someday that will be in play. But right now, it's not, but we know it's coming. Unfortunately, boards of the past had the foresight to buy property on that side of 75, so we do have land there. This is our elementary boundaries and where our schools are located. And then you can see here the, kind of a different view of where schools are located. And then some walk areas. And you can see that the schools over the past years have been built where growth had been and where it was happening in the 50s inside the boundaries. In the 1960s, when they built the new high school, which is now the junior high, we've heard from longtime residents who said people were upset that they built it on the edge of town. That it was controversial where they put that. Today, you wouldn't think about that. But we do relate. When we built Hall Prairie, people said, why are you building it way out there? But when you look at where the land is, where the development is happening, there's no schools there. So that is something that we highlighted. We use some different evaluation tools with our existing buildings to make sure that we're keeping them up, and we spent time as we toured the facilities to just walk through what that means. And every building has its own unique challenges, and we've gotten estimates as to what it would bring to bring that up to OFCC code. So the Ohio Facilities Commission has a standard that they apply when they're using their program's dollars to renovate, So we use that standard to see what it would cost us to bring our buildings up to that code. We may not go through that program, but it is a good benchmark that we can measure, because in 2005 we did that same exercise. Classroom analysis, as I mentioned before, is how is our classroom being used? And in the 1950s, sadly, inclusion was not part of what we did in education. And today, we're very proud that it is, and we continue to be leaders when it comes to that. But buildings and classroom space at one time housed 30 students now may only house 8 students, and we needed to understand what that means to our space. So we've done an analysis there. For folks that haven't experienced schools, we did introduce them to some of the things that we've had. So Niche is one of the many groups that go around and do some things where they rate schools across the state of Ohio. And just a snapshot here when it comes to best school districts, 21 out of 608 according to Niche. For teachers, 26 out of 608. Safest school districts, 33 out of 608. For athletics, 9th out of 609. And so scientific, I don't know, but it's another benchmark to take a look at. More important, especially if you have a child that's graduating, in 2021, we had over $21.8 million in scholarships awarded. And back in 2008 and 2009, when we began to track this, we were in single digits and celebrating that. We recognize the music programs here this evening for their individual accomplishments, but we know that it is something that continues to be a success for us and a draw. And again, the Purple Star designation for our schools, the junior high and high school, for honoring and working with community military families is especially important, especially today as we look at, military families really being nervous about what's happening in the world today and the sacrifices they may be asked to make. The ODE report card, again, we're consistently in the top 7% in the state with the state report card. Progress, we're in the top 3 in the state, and then prepared for success, we're in the top 6.2%, and we've improved every single year. Comparisons to other districts, and I know Mr. Swartz-Miller will be back to talk more in detail about this, but our peer groups, and then the progress each year, we're doing better and better with our peer groups, which is important. In the bottom right of the slide, you can see that of that group, we're now second, and we're looking at Brecksville, Broadview Heights being next in front of us. So we've consistently moved in the right direction. And Perrysburg High School was named Newsweek's one of the top STEM high schools, and then that complements Hall Prairie, which is Northwest Ohio's only STEM school. And the positive behavior intervention supports working with students in a positive way. All of our schools are recipients, the only district in Northwest Ohio to have that. We ask our folks here to rate us and give us a grade, and 84% gave us an A or a B, and that's great. Finance expenditures, every year we're well below the state average in cost per pupil, even though we've talked about the outstanding performance that we've done. We do it at a below average cost per pupil. Right now, we're currently $1,339 below the state average in what it costs to educate a student, which is significant for us. And so the rest of the information began to talk about finances and the development office in terms of trying to help ourselves, and we've seen some great success with that. Breakdown of positions, that's an important part of our funding, and you can see a breakdown there. And then where the dollars come from. Local sources, and we have a larger share of local source because Perrysburg is a district that has a lot of property values that the state recognizes as the local community share to share in the burden to educate students in terms of costs. Levy histories, people think, well, Perrysburg just puts up a levy and it passes automatically. So we spent a little bit of time, and Randy did a great job of really breaking this down, our school treasurer. In the past 30 years, we've had 22 levies. 15 have passed and 7 have failed. So it's not always an automatic. And so most recently, we're grateful in 2019, 2020. We know right now in 2024, we have an operational levy that'll expire, and the board will have a decision to either renew, replace, or let it expire. And then we have a permanent improvement levy, the same question that year. And then we've talked about a possible bond issue depending on what this committee recommends for us moving forward. So we're always, recognizing our past and what we can do, looking forward at what we need to do to get better in every aspect. And we also understand that we want the community to be aware of what that may mean for them. Randy has talked here at the board level and also with the group about the debt mill. So it's like paying off a car. We have in 2024 2 mills that are retiring from a past bond issue. So that's important with part of our planning and the timing and how we may want to structure if the committee says we need to move in a direction and the board says yes. So we talked to the committee about next steps and setting up those individual meetings. These are just some of the pictures of our school bus tour of the district. So we had one individual who we asked the question, how long has the person been out of a school bus the longest? And somebody raised their hand and said, I've never been on a school bus. They were a walker their entire life. So that was funny. But anyway, getting into the buildings, we appreciate the staff who opened up the buildings and made the tours available, and our 2 bus drivers that made the evening enjoyable. So that's just an update. We'll do periodic updates like this as we get going. The group does have in the timeline dates. We're going to ask them to come and report back to the board. So that's out there. So I'll open up to any questions. Otherwise, that's it.
Well, certainly appreciate the work that committee's doing. It is important. One of the, as you mentioned, one of the bigger challenges and opportunities facing this district in the next few years here. So. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hassler. Mr. Drewer, time for the finance presentation. You are on, sir.
I think we should move my part to early, that way I don't have to follow these acts.
Oh, look at your tie. It's brilliant.
Happy Pie Day.
Yes, right? Happy Pie Day. That's awesome.
The two best days of the year, Pie Day, and may the 4th be with you.
Yes. Exactly.
I'm a nerd and not and proud of it. So as I approach 6 months in Perrysburg, I can't believe it's almost been a half a year. We're 13 days away from a half a year being here, and it feels like it doesn't. It's one that's gone really, really fast, and it's awesome. And tonight, really reinforces one of the many reasons why I wanted to come to this district. The performing arts is incredible. The passion of the teaching staff, and I can tell you the administrative team's desire to get better every day. It's a kind of a team that you want to be on. You realize that we all have our warts and bumps, but I feel this is a team that really does want to live up to the mission statement. To that end, I like to start with something that's not financial, and Tom has already kind of hit on this data, and I've shown it before in different form, but this chart is a chart of the districts in Lucas and Wood counties performance index in a state report card versus spending per pupil. There's Perrysburg. So well above average on performance index. In fact, Ottawa Hills is the only one that's higher on the performance index, but our spending, that's the vertical line, is less than average for the area per pupil. High performance, spending, well controlled, and it's something to really be proud of. And I think it's the administrative team that really cares about that. And my job, as you know, I have 2 eyes. One, to keep an eye on things in the moment, and the second eye, look down the road. And the administrative team, once we get the year started, they got to run with it. My job is kind of hopefully just make sure we stay in the lanes. Close to us, that's Anthony Wayne, and Rossford is right there, so kick your butt. Okay, sorry. I have pride. The black and gold has really grown in. I'm starting to bleed it, I think, a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about really why I'm up here, talk about the finances. This is the summary of the year-to-date general fund. I want to point out these two numbers at the bottom. These are our true cash days. So as the end of February, we were at 59 true cash days versus last year at this time at 71. And the main issue at this point, it's not really an issue, it's just timing of our last payment. So our settlement on taxes is a little bit later this year than it was last year. I'm not concerned about it. It's just a little bit of a timing issue. So as you can see, we are 67% of the way through the year, and we've got 65% of our revenue, and that's expected. The second half real estate payment is the larger of the two. We have the fall payment and the spring payment. So, and then we have one more settlement to come in on real estate taxes, and in April we'll get our final income tax return. This is the chart I've shown you on our cash balance. The yellow is this year. Last year we got our settlements a little bit earlier, but we're still going to end up above where we were last year on our true cash days. So just a couple observations. Currently, we are 0.6% favorable to forecast on revenue. Our state funding is still being adjusted. We don't know exactly where we are, but we're getting pretty close. Probably in the next 2 weeks, we should have our final real estate settlement. And then, so we're looking good on the revenue side. And something I learned last week as I learned the district, right now, our tax delinquencies are 1.2 million. That means property owners owe the district $1.2 million in delinquent taxes. And 50% of that's two property owners, one of them being the Nexus pipeline, which will hopefully get some of that soon. All right, the more painful side in some ways, and that's is controlling expenses. We are at 66.6% of our spending, which is right on where we need to be. Right where we need to be on personnel. Supplies I've talked about being an issue. Part of that was carryover from last year. And part of it is there's inflationary things are starting to hit us now. Now is not the time to buy copy paper, I can tell you that. As I mentioned before, the capital was just a little mistake in the budget, which will be correcting this next time around. But we still need to keep an eye on these things. So we've talked about growth, and personnel is our biggest portion of our budget by far. So I thought I'd spend a couple minutes talking about personnel costs a little bit and looking over the history. This first graph, the orange line, is our enrollment since 2009. 17% growth or so, just as Mr. Hostler had explained earlier. The blue line, is staffing. So our district staffing has followed enrollment. And of course you're going, well, Randy, there's a gap here. Our staff has grown faster than our enrollment. And there's a couple reasons for that. I don't have, one of the biggest reasons is as we try to maintain classroom size, you're adding staff almost ahead of growth. For example, if you're trying to maintain a maximum size of 25:1, when you get that 76 student in that grade level, what do you have to do? You have to add a staff person, and they're good until you hit 101 students. That's one cause. The other cause is mandated stuff, particularly around special education and gifted programming. So all those things add up to our staffing has grown a little bit faster, but following the trend of enrollment. Now, obviously, we want to keep an eye on that. And I can tell you our conversations for staffing for next year, the staffing requests we have are 3 times what we have the budget for. So we're going to make some strategic decisions, make sure we add exactly what we need, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with going down the road. So to illustrate the impact of special services, this is, again, the same enrollment. This is staffing that's just associated with special services and gifted. That's where the explosion is. And as Mr. Hosser pointed out, we're about 10%, 11% of our students are in IEPs. Well, that doesn't sound like a huge percentage. If you're at 5,000 students, that's 500 students, right? 6,000 students, that's 600. It's the same percentage, but the number of students is much greater. So when we look at, our growth here, a lot of it is caused by those other things other than classroom teachers. And it's just the demands of the state and those kind of things. And the other thing this points out that we have to think about is we're adding staff to deal with enrollment, and a place we want to add it in the classroom, intervention specialists, those who directly deal with students. But at the same time, that puts a burden on our building administrators. Because guess what? Every staff person you had has to have what? We have to evaluate them, develop them, and it's a load that adding administrators is not popular, right? It's adding overhead. Those of us in business don't want to add overhead, but those things that we have to think about when we think about growth, it's not just in the classroom. We got to think about the support of the classroom. So this chart are, again, Lucas and Wood County districts. On the left is the number of building administrators, and on the right is the number of students per building administrator. So the average is 369. That's the average in the area of students per building administrator. Perrysburg is here. We're at 456 students per administrator. Okay, so it tells me that the district has been very conservative in terms of adding administrators, but that's something that we just can't keep ignoring as we look at the load on our administrators, because they have to evaluate staff. They've got different challenges in dealing with student needs that's taking up their time, and they're being stretched. So I'm not advocating adding a boatload of administrators, but it's something we're going to have to think about down the road and be very strategic about where we add them, when we add them, and build that into our growth plan. So general observations, expenses are running on 1% to unfavorable. Don't like it, but we're maintaining right about there. Hopefully we got some things yet to do that will bring that down. But 1% on 64 million, I'm not gonna lose too much sleep, but next time around I'll get that better. Supplies and materials remain a concern, and we're starting to see the impact of inflation. We've had to increase some POs for fuel, for example, and paper costs and those kinds of things. The nice thing on the labor side, fortunately, our contracts, essentially, we're locked in for 3 years and we know what to expect. But even like on the paper thing, we spend about $40,000 a year in copy paper. Okay, and now it's significant. So we're doing some steps to try to, but the paper suppliers don't even want to lock us in for because they know it's volatile and they don't want, and so they're going to try to get the best price they can, just like the fuel market is. Grants, you got this in your packet. Just again, we have about $2.8 million in grant allocations. We've spent about half of that, and that's normally where we are about this time of year. Grants, remember, a lot of our grants that have salaries out of it, they go through July and August. So because they go from September 1st to August 30th. So they cross fiscal years. So we don't look to spend all of them in the fiscal year. We finish spending them in the first 2 months of the next fiscal year. And a couple other information items real quick. Our bond refunding happened on February 24th. We refunded $17 million in bonds. And I can tell you I was nervous because the night before Russia invaded Ukraine, and it put the bond market into a mess. But we had already opened the window to sell. The sale actually went very well. State Farm bought about half those bonds, and they normally wait till the last second. They kind of try to swoop in and get the best price. They actually bought the bonds with 30 minutes to go. For them, it's like buy them way ahead. So that tells you we were a good value for that. And that sale will save our taxpayers about $1.2 million net. What we'll end up doing is paying those bonds off by 2038 instead of 2043. So it's like refinancing your mortgage and bringing the date in sooner. Our financial audit is essentially complete. We are just waiting for some audit documents on our health insurance side from our third-party administrator. They're every day they're going, and it's not an issue. It's an issue we've had with this TPA. They're no longer our TPA, but it's impacting that. We're getting ready to send out a request for proposal. I think it's a good practice every 3 or 4 years to go out and ask the banks, hey, tell us what you can do for us. And Huntington is our current banker. They do well for us, but can we do better? And it's taxpayer money. Let's see if we can make sure we have the best deal for the district and our taxpayers. And so that'll be going out probably the first week in April. And then a couple things on tonight's agenda. I'm asking them to approve some amended appropriations. It's mainly cleaning up some allocations on grants. And finally, there is acceptance of tax rates that the county auditor has given us, that you need to accept those prior to April 1st. If you don't accept them, the county auditor won't collect taxes. So I would suggest that we accept them. Okay. All right. Any questions? All right.
Doesn't sound like it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mr. Drew, you continue to have keep a lot of plates spinning, not just in the day-to-day, but helping move the district forward and personnel and systems, and that's all appreciated. So that's my stall to give you time to walk back, but it is sincere. So.
Keep stalling. I like what you're saying.
Okay. So with that, we have a board action to take approval of the agenda items 7.2 to 7.4, which includes the February financials, the modified appropriations and certificate of resources, and approve the tax rates and amounts. So do I have a motion to accept those three items?
So moved.
Ms. Larimer and Mr. Pullman. And roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer.
Yes.
Mr. Pullman.
Yes.
Mrs. Eubank. Yes. Dr. Reffert.
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda, board committee reports. We'll start with Personnel Committee, which I believe is hot off the presses.
Yeah, it's hot off the press. We'll give it to you next month.
Okay, very good.
And actually, with personnel, a lot of things aren't for the public at the point to talk about. But,
true. So
we'll get that to you.
The inside conversation, they just had it at 4:30 tonight, so that's what all that means. Operations Committee.
Yeah, just a couple of things. You've got the minutes in front of you there with a couple of additions to what you see. With respect to Fort Meigs heating, that's been solved. It's taken care of. And matter of fact, they're trying to get taken care of earlier, but parts was the main factor. So once that came in, got it in, it's all working fine. This is interesting about the copiers. There's 42 copiers in our district, in our school district. And they were looking around for new leases and to see what the best would be. And so they got half the cost of some of the manufacturers that we currently have. So that's a good deal for the school district. The contract that we have will be including maintenance and repair. So it's not just the copier, but the maintenance and repair on those copiers, which they get used extensively. Huskinson Center is complete. If you get a chance to go over and take a look at that, it's going to benefit the district greatly for the facility. And we thank all the contributors, taxpayers, citizens for the donations that they made to make that building happen. Other than that, one more thing is the bus drivers training. The TransFinder, are you familiar with the TransFinder? The new program that they're looking into or actually implementing. It talks about routing the students and the routes and locations of streets and what have you. It's notification of parents when the bus is about ready to arrive at the stop, and just about everything you can imagine this program can do, and it's good for the safety of our riders in the bus. So other than that, everything else is there for you.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee did meet on March 11th, pretty consistent with everything that you just heard Mr. Drewer go over. So probably a couple of other things we talked about during the financials. One thing, the personnel cost increases. One item that was out there was the opening of HPI, which all of a sudden becomes kind of a personal shock to the district, right? All of a sudden you're bringing in a lot of teachers and a lot of operations folks in order to support just a new building opening. And probably also know, and probably this is a realm for pupil services, but another reason for increases in staffing is just the great work that's done, particularly in special education and the gifted programs, which Mr. Drewer also had mentioned. So we are certainly looked at as a district for those type of services. Curriculum Committee.
We actually meet tomorrow.
Meeting tomorrow.
We had to move some dates around, so with the shortened schedule, it'll be for next month.
Policy Committee has not met, but we are doing the second reading and final approval of the policies that were discussed last month. Pupil Service Committee,
That's every other month.
every other month, thank you. And finally, Communications Committee met on February 25th.
We talked about the alumni newsletter getting restarted. We also talked about that in the school foundation meeting, because the two of them are going to work together, which seems like an obvious fit. The thing that surprised me about that is, I'm always surprised at my ignorance on things, is Rachel's caution in making sure that information is correct. What they go to print with possibly may not be accurate at the time people receive it in their hands, and it can cause an awkward situation. So the amount of work that goes in to the research of doing that is vital and important, but to get the alumni newsletter up and going again is a really, I think it's a really cool thing, and will help both alumni, communications, and Perrysburg School Foundation. And Kelly, you'll have to help me a little bit with the Safe Arrival plug-in. It's a new program that we're waiting on. Did that ever get finished up, Tom?
I don't-
Because we had to wait for it to be able to be a plug-in to School Messenger or something. Am I getting it right?
Yeah.
My notes are a little sketchy on this.
I don't think it's up and active. But the main takeaway I got was that it's going to be easier for the attendants. And they're not going to have to listen to the message anymore. Somehow the message is going to be read, and then the secretaries don't have to listen to the attendance report when you call in and report your child absent, sick, dentist, whatever. So frees up a little bit of their time.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Ms. Lermer, anything with the foundation?
Foundation.
Oh, can I add one thing? The district dash, was that May 1st? Coming out May 1st.
Oh, the dashboard?
Yeah, the district dash newsletter. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
May 1st.
I think that's the target.
Oh, okay. Target date, May 1st.
For the foundation, we met on March 8th, and want to remind you about the May 11th banquet, so be sure to put that on your agendas, because that is really not to be missed. That's a very, very cool. Oh, look, I've got notes chicken scratched all over this.
Is it at Belmont again? Or do you know where it
Yes,
is? Yeah.
it will be at Belmont again. That was just approved too. I'm sorry, I should have looked this over again before, because now I'm looking at chicken scratch. We did a bunch of grants and we talked about some interesting perplexions in trying to decide how we do grants. Last year, grants were given differently, under different circumstances, and were granted approval for different reasons than what a grant program might be done for in a normal year like this year or years in past. So we had some discussion about that we wanted to return to a typical grant type thing. We didn't want organizations to be coming and using PSF as a way to pad their budget, so to speak. That's not what that's for, but there's some really cool things that they're doing in, oh, shoot. I apologize, I'm going to have to really look at my notes a little bit better, because I have totally messed up my notes on this. But there were some, like I say, there were some really interesting discussions, and we didn't vote to approve all of them either. but the fund is doing well, and again, we are waiting on Spangler and Nathanson to review the Cranker donation language. Again, something interesting that I thought never really crossed my mind, how important it is to make sure that you understand what the intent was of each and every little word that was in there. So there's getting some time spent on that, and in the meantime, it is rapidly increasing in value. So there's the yin and yang of that. So it's a fascinating group of people.
Thank you. And then I'll give a quick update on Penta. One of the joys of my life is also getting to serve on that board, particularly this time of year, as they go through numerous different competitions, and we're seeing, we always like to celebrate the great success that our Perrysburg students have through the Penta program, and I'll send you around the list of the specific names because it's lengthy, but we've had about 45 Perrysburg students place first, second, or third for DECA. 3 Perrysburg students received awards at the BPA regionals, and 4 Perrysburg students for FCCLA. Also, if you've noticed me playing around with my phone here, I did actually get on the Penta Perrysburg Teachers Twitter account because I saw over the weekend 3 of our students received state awards for career development plans, and 2 of our students, let's hope I can find it, 2 of our students placed first place in a startup business plan competition. So we're going to see these students.
They go on to nationals, don't they?
Or they say internationals here.
Oh, okay.
Next up, internationals. So
cool.
Again, a lot to celebrate both within our buildings here at Perrysburg as well as at Penta. Okay, thank you for the committee reports. We are now, I believe, onto the consent agenda. So we are going to, let me make sure I get this right. We are looking for a motion and a second
So moved.
to approve the consent agenda items.
from
Dr.
10:14.
Reffert, Ms. Eubanks, I'll just shut up, we'll keep going here, so.
I'm getting the hang of it, Mr. Bennington. Took me a couple months.
Mr. Drewer, roll call, please.
Can we have discussion?
I'm sorry, and discussion?
I just want to point out, we had a group talk tonight about item 14.4. And it's been great for the last 2 years. We've had groups talk to us about their thoughts and concerns about activities and votes that we take. And I just want to thank the ones that spoke tonight. And I think it's important. When the student approached and talked too, how meaningful that is to hear when people discuss true life stories. When we hear from the heart, not only research or talking to other adults, but when I hear students and what they're faced with and meet them right where they're at. So I appreciate the conversation we've had amongst the board. I know Mr. Hostler mentioned about this club, gosh, was it several months ago as it was being developed and what have you. So when I read my own research when I ask what's this club, why do we need it, and I hear about safety for our students, and I hear about educating others that maybe are not gay or lesbian, what have you, they're straight, how it educates them for the bullying and things that take place in school. I'm thinking, well, that's 2 boxes I would check. As a board member, I always want to make sure I'm making the right decision based upon information I have and hearing those stories. So I appreciate tonight's input from the folks that attended.
Thank you, Mr. Pullman.
I'd like to piggyback on that too, because I really needed to do some research. A document was sent to all of us, which I did get to read, and I found it fascinating, and a lot of things that I was able to look up. I hope everybody was able to. I know, Lori, you read it in your response, but as one of our speakers said, and it kind of came to my heart as she looked over here at our vision and mission and core values and pulled that up. Our teachers, and I wonder how many school districts actually do this, maybe you know, Tom, but how many of our teachers not only know that, they live it for our students. And I think that is why we are a destination district. And the fact that we put in the word all, to me that's significant, because I had to go back, being the old fart on the committee here, or on the board, I had to go back and I had thought about my high school years. And I went to a very, 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 very small high school, but there was a boy in my grade that I have to admit, I don't think my class or my school is very kind to. And as far as I know, he is no longer with us. And it makes me wonder, had we had the information, accurate information then, to be able to understand him better, would he still be with us? So I am hoping, and I challenge this club to help those of us who may not be members of the club to understand. I don't want to see the club become divisive. I want our whole district to understand that these are students. They are part of all of our students, and we need to love and honor all of our students. And I think that's just as important that gets through, because if these kids will understand that, then I think these incidences of bullying and poor behavior from others, adult or otherwise, should really decrease, don't you? I'm really having some emotional flashback of some of my high school years here.
I agree with you, Sue, and I appreciate everyone who came out to speak tonight, because I know it's not easy, but I know it's worth it. You know, it's nice to hear from the silent majority. I appreciate it. I know it's very scary, and so it was nice to hear people come out and share their stories, because what you said, we're here for all students, and I like to paraphrase Maya Angelou: when we know better, we do better. And that's my heart mission, servicing on the board, and I'm glad that we're able to look at all of our students and understand that we are here to protect them, love them, and help them in whatever way we can and make them achieve their fullest potential.
That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, isn't it? That's what we're here for.
I spent some time today on the high school website, because I was sort of shocked that we already didn't have a group. So I looked online. I got online today and looked at the website, and we've got great groups. Great. It's a wonderful thing to have all these organizations. And I believe we have one at the junior high. So I thought we didn't have one at the, I thought we had one at the high school, not the junior high. But anyhow, put a call into a high school counselor and walked through it, and we just went over the organizations that are there, and I just think that this would be an additional good fit. So,
well, just walking around the high school, which we don't really get much of an opportunity to do on the Diverse Learner Day, was fascinating, because I kept going late to my sessions because I was reading all the little bulletins all over the school, this club, this club, this club, and the notes on the lockers. It was kind of like, look at the shiny object, but it made me miss being back in the classroom a lot, but just the energy from it, but all the things that they have to choose from.
the junior high's like that too. You'd be surprised.
Well, oh no, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, that's Perrysburg.
Right.
It was something that I noticed in my daughter's high school that was lacking. And maybe, Tom, you can tell me, what do we have? Do we have something for students? How can I say this? A place where they can go to get away from the noise, to get away from the pressure, to just relax, a place, a little park, a little picnic table, or some, I know that's outside, which lately hasn't been very opportune, but that was something that was missing in my daughter's high school that I worked very hard to make sure happened. Is there something like that
for our students to go to HPI on up where well, HPI's got some nice property there, but I think to honor, just to take a chill, to get away from it all.
You know, that's a great point. I had a conversation with a teacher. It's not necessarily a physical space, but one of the things that is great about our district is teachers have interest, they listen to students, they understand what students need, and they take their own time to go that extra, distance to meet the students where they are. And we have a teacher at the high school who started a meditation club.
Oh, cool.
So it's just an opportunity for kids who are interested in that kind of getting away, to your point, maybe mentally. It's really challenging in school because their days are so structured. Every period, every bell, you have to be somewhere. So there aren't those opportunities. I think these activities, last month it was the garden club. This month it's ping pong club and then the GSA. I think we try to find those spaces in those activities where kids can go and be with peers and hang out. It's almost like a clubhouse where you can just go and be yourself, and it's a safe space. And I think that's what we're trying to build. And if it is ping pong that does it, that's great. GSA, we heard tonight why that's important for those students. So, trying to find those spaces, not only in the school day, which is more challenging, but also after school as well. So, and I just want to say one thing, if I can. So yesterday I was down in Columbus in the shot watching the state wrestling tournament, and you've got these wrestlers that are battling for state championships. I don't think anybody in that shot, Trevor, had the courage that you had tonight. So, thank you.
Okay, well, great comments, everybody. I echo all of them. I always appreciate this district and its teachers and their ability to identify with the students at an individual level and find, Tom, as you were saying, the resources, the activities, the experiences that are needed so that they feel safe, so that it enhances their well-being. In order to that, I've said it before, so that those students, all of our students, can bring their best selves into the classroom to learn every day. So thank you all. Roll call now, Mr. Drewer.
Dr. Reffert.
Yes.
Mrs. Eubank.
Yes.
Mr. Pullman.
Yes.
Ms. Larimer.
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes. Okay, flipping pages here. We are now at the point for board discussion of any new business.
I don't have any.
Oh, Sue doesn't have, so we're going to quickly move on before she changes her mind. Sorry, Sue. Thank you.
That's all right, I get it.
Okay, we now have an opportunity for second public participation for items other than those that were on the agenda. Again, it'll be 3 minutes. Once I recognize you, please come to the podium and state your name, address, and affiliation with the school district. And we are going to, next on our list is Councilwoman Materney.
I thought our meetings were tedious. Hello, my name is Jan Materney. I do live in the district, and I live at 423 West 6th Street, Perrysburg, Ohio. First of all, I'm very glad and support the GSA Club, and I'm very, very upset at the comments made at the last school board meeting. But I'm here today because I think this is just a small part of a small drop in the bucket of issues that are, let me stop and take a breath. You'd think I'd be used to speaking in public. That's happening to our school districts today. And I am here today to support our elected school board, staff, and teachers of the Perrysburg schools. We're so lucky to have the caliber of public schools in our city rated in the top 500 in the nation. Our city's growth proves this. Perrysburg wouldn't be one of the fastest growing cities in Ohio if it wasn't for our amazing district. So to the board, teachers, and staff that works hard every day to assure our kids get the best education possible, thank you. Our history, like all human history, is made up of good and bad times. There are times we celebrate the struggle for women, like for women's suffrage, the bravery and selflessness of D-Day, and the birth of the world's first democracy. But those did not come without birthing pains, dark moments that we can't tuck away in the chest of history. The Great Depression, the bombing of the churches in Mississippi, the Stonewall riots, and all the other struggles that we've endured as Americans fight for our nation's promise of liberty and equal rights for everyone, no matter what they are, man, woman, religion, LGBTQ, period. We need to teach all of this history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Or as the saying goes, we are doomed to repeat it, and we are seeing that now. As for banning books, that puts us in the same class as Hitler, Stalin, Putin, and Mao. Not a class I would like to be part of, just saying.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Chris Gorange.
My name's Chris Gorange. I'm on Carronade Drive, and I'm a parent in the district. So I had my mind made up on what I wanted to say tonight, and thank you to my wife who writes for a living. So kind of clean up what I've got. I'm glad I came tonight so I can say thank you more so to some of the teachers more face to face. But what I really came here to say is think back to when you were in school. Who was your favorite teacher? Who made the biggest impact? Why do they stand out? I briefly mentioned my father at the last board meeting. He loved teaching. Unfortunately, he passed before he should have. Our town mostly shut down for the day of the funeral. Businesses and schools closed. The high school gym was standing room only for his memorial service. Why did our community respond this way? Well, now being 30 years later, I can easily tell you that it was because he knew how to connect and genuinely care for the well-being of his students as well as others. Decades later, I still meet people who taught all those years ago who remark on the impact he had on their lives. He had the skills to teach, but as a teacher, he went beyond just academics. He taught students that they are important and worthy. He paid attention to his words because he understood that words aren't just words. They have power. All. He listened to students and addressed their concerns on difficult topics in age-appropriate ways, because even our youngest students notice our differences. But most important of all, he knew that students were more than just a name and a grade on a paper, and he made sure that they knew it too. The best teachers are the best teachers because of how they make kids want to be in school and learn. They make kids feel like they belong and are cared for. Giving our teachers the tools to better understand and empathize with students of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances is critical. Perrysburg School District's support of enhancing their teachers' ability to handle everyday situations through programs and training on topics such as cultural intelligence, social emotional learning, is a great investment. It shows that our district's leaders understand that teachers don't just teach. Please continue to support our teachers as they strive to be the best for our students. Last thing I'll say, I can't wait for my two girls to have some of you. So I'm very hopeful that this is not the only time we meet face to face. Thank you.
Again, thank you for the public comments. With that, We are looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ms. Larimer, Dr. Rufford, and roll call, please.
Ms. Larimer,
Yes.
Dr. Reffert,
Yes.
Mrs. Eubank,
Yes.
Mr. Pullman,
Yes.
Mr. Bennington.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned.
I forgot to explain why there's a panda on my desk.